Unless you're really freaking rich, $30,000 is a lot of money.
That much cash can buy you a new car or even a year's worth of rent.
So obviously when we chose to drop 30 grand, not on a new car or a place to live, but on Tony Robbins, we expected something pretty amazing.
But the one thing we definitely did not expect was the pain. There were times during the event that I cried so hard from sadness, there was literal snot dripping down my face.
But here's the thing, all that pain we experienced also led to unbelievable growth.
So in this bonus episode of BSU, we'll be sharing our top 3 life-changing lessons from the experience and hopefully how they can change your life too. Now, before we jump into the 3 lessons, I think we should give everybody watching or listening a little bit more context as to what's really going on here, because we have spent a total of $30,000 on Tony Robbins events. Over how many events, Nick?
We've gone to, between both of us, 8 events in 8 years. We've both attended 3 UPW events each and 1 business mastery event together.
So 8 events in 8 years, and $30,000 is the grand total that we spent on all of those events. But the reason we're making this episode today is because less than 2 weeks ago, we just got back from our 3rd combined Unleash the Power Within event in the New York, New Jersey area. And there was some pretty crazy and pretty painful shit that happened during that event. And we had some crazy breakthroughs that we just felt so desperate to share with each other and with you, whoever's watching or listening. So without further ado, let's jump into life-changing lesson number 1.
Life-changing lesson number 1. You're one decision away from a completely different life. So take us back to the moment you made the decision to go to your first Tony Robbins UPW event.
Oh, man.
What made you actually press the button, buy the thing, and say, I'm going to do this?
The first time I saw Tony Robbins was on social media, and I was a skeptic, just like 99% of the people who see Tony Robbins for the first time, because he's this very
snake oil salesman type
he's
vibe.
A very big personality. He's got that, like, what seems like a really big ego. Like, just today I was listening to one of his videos on YouTube, and the first comment I saw was, this guy really loves himself, huh? So it's like, you know, there's a ton of Tony Robbins haters out there. And at first I was about to be one of them because I saw that one video and it did seem like this guy is full of himself, man. Like, he really does love himself. But then I started to see more of his videos and he just started making more and more sense. And once I shut my own ego's voice down that was constantly trying to judge this man, and I started seeing that his intentions were actually pure, like he genuinely does care about people and wants to help other people. And then you start hearing his backstory, how he went from nothing to something and how passionate he really is about helping people. And then how much sense he was just making for me. Like, I was going through a lot of struggles and his videos always seemed to put me in a better mood and a better headspace. And it was just like, all right, I like this guy. So I went from super skeptic to Tony Robbins fan, but I still wasn't ready to drop $1,000 to go to one of his events. Like, that was something I was definitely not ready to do. Like, $1,000 to go, I wouldn't even spend that to go see like Russ, my favorite artist, in concert.
Yeah,
I'm not doing this just to go see Tony Robbins.
That's a pretty cool analogy, thinking about dropping $1,000 on a concert, and you're saying, yeah, why would I drop $1,000 on a personal development concert? Right? Like, it doesn't really make sense. But I love that you actually bypassed your judgmental mind and leaned into your curiosity, started realizing, okay, this dude is actually saying something that's helping me with my life. And now you're at this moment in time where you're looking at the price tag, it's $1,000. And now you're saying, at first you're like, why the hell would I do that? I'm not going to pay for this ticket for Russ. But you end up doing it. So what pushed you over the line?
Thank God I did it, because like this first life-changing lesson says, it was one decision that completely changed the course of my life. But to answer your question of what made me actually end up pulling the trigger, it started with getting one video ad. I think it was on Instagram at the time. And it was like You know, back in the day when Barstool would make like the crazy fraternity, like highlight reel party videos and it looked like epic? That was kind of what it looked like, but it was a Tony Robbins personal development event ad for Unleashed Power Within. And it looked so epic. Like everybody's dancing, there's EDM music playing. I'm like,
and they throw in some celebrities too.
Yeah,
like
then Usher there.
Usher is gone, and Oprah, and the guy that plays Wolverine.
Yeah, I forget his name. Oh, Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, so you start seeing all these celebs. I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Then, like I mentioned, I click the website. I see $1,000 to go. I'm like, gee, not doing that. But then his retargeting ads started kicking in, and I started seeing it again and again and again. Shout out to Tony's marketing team. Yeah, eventually I was at this place in my life where I was so desperate for answers and I was so lost. We were really struggling as these new entrepreneurs. My finances were struggling. I was in a relationship for 6 years with my high school sweetheart that just was causing me to be miserable. I was basically miserable every fucking day, man. I was in a dark place. And there was only so much that watching Tony's videos or reading books could do to snap me out of this state, which is what we'll get into later in this episode. But eventually I reached this breaking point where I was like, I need to do something. Like reading something, seeing something is not going to do much for me. I need to do something radically different to shake things up because I do not like where I'm at right now.
Wow.
So I said, I don't have the money, but I'm going to find a way to pay for this. I dug into whatever pennies I had left in my savings, bit the bullet and went. And it was the best decision I think I've ever made in my entire life, truly, which is a big statement, but I really mean it.
Okay, wait, I want to stay on this topic of your first experience there. So, okay, we went through this progression of you judging Tony, then now liking Tony, then going through this battle of I'm not going to spend this much money to then spending this much money. Now you're walking into the conference center in New Jersey. Tell me what you're feeling and thinking at that time.
Well, my first thought is, am I going to see Tony Robbins or am I seeing the reincarnation of Jesus Christ?
Why?
Because the lines are around the block just to get your registration ticket. Like, I cannot believe how many people were there to see this man.
It honestly feels like the vibe of a rock concert minus the drinking and drugs.
Yeah.
It's insane.
The lines were insane, though. Like, it took 4 hours just to get in the building, and it feels like you're going to see a god. And now my skeptic thoughts are going again, like, what does this guy think he is? The judge in me, the judgmental mind is starting to run, and then you get inside the event.
Because also you have this, like, underlying fear, right?
Yeah, you're
going
scared shitless.
You're going into the unknown. And I feel like anytime you do something for the first time, that fear kicks in, and then it starts trying to come up with all these excuses why you should actually just turn around and not even go in.
Yeah.
But you're like, screw it, I paid $1,000,
exactly.
I'm going in.
Exactly. The money that you spent is just like, all right, we're doing this, so like it or not. And another thing I remember is how happy everybody was. Like, I'm there nervous, like trying to get my bearings, and everyone online, although it's a 3.5 hour line to get in, big smile on their face, super energetic, super ready. So now I have the other thought that everyone thinks, like, I think I'm about to be entered into a cult because these people seem very strange and I am not like them. I'm just this normal dude from Brooklyn. Yeah, I'm into personal development, but like these people seem very strange and just not my kind of people. Like,
once again,
very
judgmental.
Very scared and judgmental. Then you finally get in the building. And now you're sitting down in this big stadium and Tony doesn't come out for like another 4 hours. So you're just sitting there, just looking around at all these happy people. A lot of them know each other because apparently this is their 6th or 7th event together. You start hearing the other conversations. So I go all the way to the top of the stadium, away from as many people as I can, just sit there. And I'm like thinking, what the fuck did I just get myself into, man? Why am I here? All these stupid thoughts. And then, well, just like the entrance of a rock star, you start hearing like, everybody get on your feet, get ready for this guy's big fucking reveal. And so I'm like, I'm slowly getting up. Like, I see I'm the only one sitting down, so I'm slowly getting up, like, okay, I guess I'm excited for this. And then he comes out, he's roaring like an animal, classic Tony Robbins, banging on his sticks, going absolutely berserk. Everyone's going berserk with him. and I was
The music is a vibe.
But yeah, the music is great. It's just at this point, at my first event, and I'm sure you felt the same way, you're thinking to yourself, like, what if the people back at home saw me here?
Oh, yeah,
like,
for
what
sure.
would they be thinking right now? You feel like you just entered the twilight zone.
That's exactly what, especially when you start getting a little into the day and he has you like start interacting with the people around you. Like you're giving them hugs and high fives, and all of a sudden he's telling you to massage the person next to you. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my God, what would like my friends and family back home think if they like just saw a glimpse of me in this moment in time? And that's once again that like fear of what other people would think coming in, rather than just like letting go and experiencing something new. But eventually, with enough time, you start playing full out. Like what he likes to call it is like, if you're here and you spent this money, you might as well just try to play full out, because that's how you're going to get the most out of this experience.
Yeah. And what you do is dance a lot. Like basically you don't go more than 20 minutes without getting up and just going berserk and dancing like an animal to like some sort of EDM song or something really fun to dance to. And it's pretty much like a EDM concert at certain points, because his whole philosophy is to get your blood flowing, which we'll get into life-changing lesson number 2. But the whole day you're getting pumped up for basically 12 hours where he's teaching you something really valuable about your life, and then getting you to dance so that you stay in this peak state, and then teaching you something and then getting you to dance again. And so you start getting into this rhythm where it starts becoming kind of normal. So I started the day in the back of the whole concert, or whatever you want to call it, the back of the stadium, all shy and timid. 12 hours later, from 10 a.m. now it's 10 p.m. I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs.
Make the sound of your soul unleashed!
I'm like all about it, jumping like a maniac. Like I feel like I've just joined this family of psychopaths. And it's great though. It feels amazing to like let loose and not give a shit anymore.
And the purpose of all this is what?
It's all leading up to the grand finale of day 1, where you make this life-changing decision. Do you remember that part of the first day? Well, you had to. We just went.
Where you make the decision? No, what happened?
Basically, he gets you all amped, and now the energy in the room is like through the roof. And now that you're in this peak state where you feel like unstoppable, you can do anything, he gets you to like slow down your nervous system again, and he like plays this crazy music, and he gets you to go into your heart. He plays like the Gladiator song, and then you go into your heart, you close your eyes, and he asks you to reflect on a decision that you feel you really need to make, that you've been pushing to the side. Something you know you need to do, but you haven't been doing it out of fear. And because you're in that peak state, and then he slows you down into that meditative state, and you're feeding on the energy of everyone around you, it comes to you. And it's something that's been there. It's a whisper that's been there for a really long time, but it's only in this state that you finally have the balls to hear it.
This reminds me of what Tony says that day, is that this is the day we need to change our shoulds into musts. And he says that we often should all over ourselves, which I love that line because it's such a powerful image of shoulding all over yourself.
I should lose weight. I should quit my job. I should break up with my significant other.
Yes, but when you make it a must, you have made a decision. And decision, as we've talked about in a previous episode, comes from a Latin prefix, which means to cut off.
Decidere.
Cut off. So there is no going back. It's burn the boats moment where that should becomes a must.
Yep.
So he's building up this energy for you to get to that place. And it's not like a very hard thing to get to. Like we all know the thing that we
should be doing.
No, we all know the thing we should be doing that should be a must, but we just haven't gotten ourselves to make it a must yet. And this process that you go through gets you to go that last mile to take that should and turn it into that must.
So what was your big first decision at your first event?
So the reason why these lessons are life-changing is because it literally was a life-changing decision. When I went to my first Tony Robbins event, which was maybe 9 years ago at this point, or 9 or 10 years ago at this point, my first decision that I made was that I was going to quit my corporate job to become an entrepreneur. It was always my dream to be an entrepreneur. I was into business since I was a little kid, doing all types of random shit to try to create my own business. And I had just gone down a path in my life that was the easy choice, right? It was kind of set for me, but like I knew that I should have been going this other route of being my own boss and creating something, but I didn't have the balls to do it. And on that first visit, I was like, fuck it, this is what I want. I'm going to decide. And to be honest with you though, it wasn't, for me at least, it wasn't like I went home and I quit my job. It was a little bit of a process, but making that decision that day got the wheels turning and me moving in the direction that eventually got me to do it.
Well, you mentally decided that it was going to happen. It was just finding the right timing to make it happen. But in that moment, there was no turning back because you made a decision, like we said. And we have made, the reason we keep going back, and the reason we've been to 8 of these things is because just this first night alone and making this life-changing decision, and by the way, we never know what that decision is going to be going into the event. You may have an inkling of like kind of what you're going to be pushed to decide, but you never really know. It kind of comes as a surprise a lot of the times. And we've made some crazy life-changing decisions.
Some decisions you got.
You decided to quit your job.
Yeah.
I decided to break up with my ex, that toxic relationship that was making me miserable. And I was with her for 6 years. That was a big ass, very scary decision that I had the balls to make. And now I am married to the love of my life, and it completely changed the course of my life. So these aren't tiny little decisions. These are decisions that completely put you on a new road.
And then the opposite of that was I made a decision to get engaged and marry the woman of my dreams. So that was like the opposite of a breakup. It was actually that fear of commitment of going with one person for the rest of your life. I knew I should have been doing it, but this was like, okay, no, this is the person. Do it. Step into your fear and go full force in this direction.
At the last one, you decided to start a family.
And then at the last one, it was that next big fear thing, which is like bringing a child into this world.
Now, think about how big these decisions are, and think about the $30,000 price tag that we spent on all of these events. I would pay $30,000 just to be led to making one of these life-altering decisions. I really would. I know it sounds crazy, but like these are completely life-changing decisions, which goes back to the lesson.
And then the devil's advocate here, though, I can hear them saying, it's like, why do you need to go to these events to do that? Like you said, you know what you have to do already. Like it's really not that hard. Just make the decision. There is a power of being in this room with that energy and getting to that place that Tony gets you to. And that energy that is surrounding you with, it's like, think about when you're if you've ever been to a sports game, right? If you're at MSG and the Knicks are playing and everyone is watching the final play of the game and the Knicks hit that buzzer beater and everyone erupts with that energy. Now, you have that type of energy while you're trying to make this decision. It sticks so much more in your brain than if you were just at home journaling and saying like, all right, you know what? I am going to quit my job. And then the next day comes and that fear just overpowers that little decision you wrote on that little paper with no emotional charge to it. So that's why that environment is so important for making these decisions. Yes, the truth is we can make the decision at home.
And you start to learn there is a method to Tony's madness and why you're dancing like a maniac.
He's actually a genius. Like he knows exactly what he's doing, and he is like a conductor, like knowing exactly what note he's playing to get you to where he needs to be.
So you start this day, you're very skeptical. You're like, oh God, what did I get myself into? You end this day feeling like you just climbed Mount Everest and you're ready to do anything. Like you're ready to tackle the world's biggest problems. You're super amped. Even though you've been moving and dancing and shaking, and you don't eat, by the way, at these things. He doesn't give you time to eat.
On that first day, at least.
On that first day.
So you just bring snacks.
So you're basically absolutely starving. You're dead tired from like a sleep perspective. but you're still going home that day feeling like, I can't fucking wait to go back to day 2. If that was day 1, I'm like, I'm amped.
Yeah.
Which brings us to day 2 and life-changing lesson number 2 from these events.
So life-changing lesson number 2 is emotional states are everything.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And this one really got nailed down even harder at this last event that we just went to. Because one of the stories that he tells, so Tony's written a book called Money Master the Game, where he basically interviewed like all of the world's billionaires. I don't know how many exactly, but I think it's in the hundreds. And these billionaires who have seemingly everything, the yachts, the big homes, everything they could possibly want on a material level, but they're miserable. And the reason being is you could have everything, but if your emotional home, the state of mind that you're in,
that
every
you keep
day,
coming back to.
right? If that is frustrated, pissed off, angry, you're never quite there, like mentally. If that's your state of mind, then you're poor. No matter how fucking rich you are, you're poor. And it hits me so hard at this last event because I'm like, no, I'm not a billionaire, but I'm in that same exact space where I did an audit of my emotional home while I'm at this event. And I'm realizing like, yeah, I'm starting to see some results that I want to see from a work perspective, but my emotional home is pissed off and frustrated.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing this game where there is a destination that I need to eventually arrive at, and only then will I reach this state of like, okay, I'm satisfied and happy now.
Yeah.
So every day I'm living in this state of like, it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not happy until, I'm not happy until. And what he gets you to realize is this whole happiness thing is really an internal game, and you have the power to kind of flip the script on how this happiness thing really works, where you are happy first and then you achieve happily after that, right? So it's happiness comes first. Those emotional states are the priority.
It's I don't achieve to be happy, I happily achieve.
Yeah.
And really what this reminds me of a lot of is the IQ versus EQ thing, right? We often think like, okay, you're smart, you have a high IQ. But I love that line, which is if you're so smart, then why aren't you happy? And that's where the EQ comes in, your emotional intelligence. Are you able to regulate your emotions and make your emotional home a beautiful one? Because if you are, then I would argue that you're really smart. Not just because you have a super high IQ and you can solve these really complex problems. No, that's not everything.
You know what else I love that he says that really stuck with me? It's what we really want is to be happy. Like on the other side of all these things that we think we want.
Yeah.
The new car, the better home, more space, a backyard, a place to park, all these things that we say we want. It's really because we want the happiness that we think is on the other side of attaining those things.
We want the emotion attached to it.
We want the emotion that the result will bring us. That's really what we want. And he's basically saying, just reverse the order. You could have the happiness now without any of these things. And then when you get that, great, be even more grateful. But you can reverse the order and be happy now. And what I love is that he gives practical strategies that we've been using to find that happiness from moment to moment without any of the external shit going on. It's like this crazy life hack that we've been using. We even used it before this episode.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is what he talks about, emotion, how we create it.
Yeah.
So he has this very famous popular line where he says, motion creates emotion. And it's such a powerful line because you don't really think about that, right? Like you think, okay, I'm sad. Maybe I should sit down and write about why I'm sad, right? Where he says, move your fucking body. Just get up and start moving and get your blood flowing and get yourself in a different state emotionally just by moving your body.
Yeah. There is nothing more powerful to change your emotional state than moving your body. And he proves it to you through the course of these 3 days because, like, you're starving. It's freezing. The conditions that you're in are not great, but you feel so energized the entire 3 days because you are nonstop moving and getting the lymph that basically gets locked up in your body. You're constantly getting the blood flowing, which is bringing oxygen to your brain, and it works like a charm. And Harvard has done studies on this. There's been books released about this, but he's been talking about this even before them, and it fucking works, man. Like before this episode, we were feeling a little lethargic. We were feeling like, ugh, I don't really feel like doing this. Like that shitty state.
That after lunch lull.
And what do? We'll play the B-roll. We put on some music, some EDM, just started dancing like maniacs, pumping our fists, breathing really crazily, like creating a radical shift in our physiology. And look at how much energy we have in this episode right now. We're amped. We're ready to go.
Science has actually like looked into this. Like research shows that there's a connection between physical movement and enhanced learning. So if you think about it just from purely common sense perspective, right? The more you move your body, the more oxygen you bring in. So it increases the oxygen that goes to your brain. And when you do that, it enhances the cognitive functions like memory and problem solving. So when you're in this state, when you're amped up like that, you're able to come into a situation where there's a problem and just be a problem solver, right?
Yeah, and on the other side of that, we've all had that moment where we're sitting on our laptop and we're not in a great state and we have to write a simple email. And this simple email that we have to write is taking us close to an hour because our brain just feels like it's not working and we're just like hunched over, and then like we're like, you know what, I need to go get a coffee. Like it takes an hour to do the simplest task. Now let's say you just got up from your desk, did 25 jumping jacks, put in some headphones, went to the bathroom, did a few squats, did something to get your blood flowing,
pumping.
Even as simple as a walk, right? Get yourself physically changed, sit back down, you'll write that same email in 5 seconds. Your brain just operates differently.
I have a really good story here that displays this really well. So in high school, I was a kicker, and I went to a kicking camp at Rutgers University, and they brought in a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist comes to the front of the group and he pulls a kid up and he has this little contraption, and he's like, okay, I want you to squeeze this contraption as hard as you can, and this little gauge will measure how much pressure you're putting on it. So the kid presses it and the gauge goes up to about 80, let's say. He's like, all right, that's great. Now I want you to close your eyes. I want you to think back to your proudest moment. So the kid closes his eyes. He's in high school, right? So he just did his 1 rep max at bench press like last month in his high school gym. So he's like, all right, go back to that moment. You're in your high school gym. You're about to get set up. Tell me what's going on around you. He's like, all my teammates around me. My coach is there. He's looking at me. Everyone's cheering me on. I lift it off the rack. I go down. I come up, and everyone goes insane and just cheers me on. And he's like, how did it feel? He's like, I felt amazing. I felt on top of the world. He goes, all right, great. Now I want you to take the same device and press it again. And he presses it again. And instead of 80, he gets 100. And he's like, look at that. You are just as strong as you were right before I told you to remember that story, but you were able to exert so much more force. So your state of mind, your emotional state of mind affects your performance.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that story for the rest of my life.
And how do you get into those emotional states of mind? Other than visualization, I think the easiest way is just simply moving your body.
For sure. That's definitely the most concrete, easiest way of
here's an example. If you're listening to this or watching this right now, just start smiling very big. Like, force yourself to just start smiling very, very big. Extremely big, like to the point where you hurt your face. You can feel, as you continue to smile, don't stop smiling, you can feel your whole emotional state starting to shift. You can feel it. I feel it right now by doing it. You can feel it starting to shift. And that's like the bare minimum. Now, if you combine that with jumping and breathing and music and doing everything you can to like get into these peak states, you start getting peak results. And that's what we've started incorporating since we got back from the last event.
Yeah.
We've been every hour or so. We're just saying, all right, stop what you're doing, get up from your desk. We're dancing for like 20 seconds and we just start dancing, EDM, back to work. Now we're back in a peak state, fully focused, ready to attack the task at hand.
And this wasn't only a life-changing lesson for us. Tim Ferriss, who's somebody that we've studied very closely and love, he said this was the biggest takeaway he got from Tony Robbins, this concept of state, story, strategy. And basically what he means by this little S game, word game that he has here, is that we often, like you said, try to focus on the strategy first. We have a problem, we sit down, we try to figure out, okay, how are we going to solve that?
I'm depressed. Why am I depressed?
Why am I depressed?
You sit down.
But he said, reverse engineer that. Start with your state. Get yourself in a good state.
by moving.
Then when you're in a good state, you start telling yourself a better story. Not, I suck, I'm not good at this, whatever. You'll start telling yourself, I can do this.
I can do this.
I can do this. It's a simple belief. Then now you are in a good mental state. You're telling yourself a good story. Now sit down and try to solve that problem.
And you won't believe how easily the strategy comes to you if you reverse the order.
Well, that science has been done with that too, right? Optimists see so many more possibilities than that of a pessimist, right? And those are just states of mind. An optimist just sees so many more possibilities.
Yeah. And so basically all of day 2, what he's doing is building up this insane momentum in your body, in your nervous system, where now it's like everyone's on board with this crazy thing. Like, we're moving, and we love moving because
picking up momentum.
You feel physically charged, like Goku, like doing this kind of thing. Like, you feel amped. And so all the momentum is building to day 3, where you have the grand finale, and this is where the pain,
unexpected pain,
the ultimate pain, this is where that comes in.
And it's not physical pain like the Vipassana retreat that we experienced. This is more of a deeper emotional pain.
So what is life-changing lesson number 3?
So life-changing lesson number 3, as our nephew Gianluca likes to say, life-changing lesson number 3 is your beliefs control your life.
Yeah. And how does he get us to learn this lesson?
So he tells a story about one night after a conference. He gets into his hotel room. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and he likes to just put on the TV to have some background noise on. And as he puts on the TV, the movie A Christmas Carol is on about Scrooge. And he just gets sucked in. He's like, oh my God, this story is just so good. I guess I'm going to watch it. And he starts watching it, and he starts realizing that Scrooge is a miserable person that has a lot of limiting beliefs. And throughout the movie, if you've seen it, Scrooge gets visited by some ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past, ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they call?
Yeah.
Okay. And what does Tony call those ghosts?
He calls them neuroassociative conditioning specialists.
Why does he call them that?
Because basically what they get Scrooge to do is associate massive amounts of pain to his old beliefs of, I need to be miserable in order to make money, and then associates massive pleasure to his new belief, which is, if I'm kind, I could still make the same amount of money. So basically, he goes into his past.
He
goes into his past, and the ghosts basically show him all the lives that he's ruined from being an asshole. And so now Scrooge is like seeing it firsthand. He's like, wow, this is what this belief has caused, this much pain for other people. Then he goes to the present and he sees how much pain he's caused for himself and how miserable he is every day. Then he goes to the future and he sees him all alone, basically about to die, this lonely, sad man. And so now Scrooge has this moment where I'm like, I don't want all that pain.
Yeah, it's that.
So he gets leverage on him.
Yeah, it's that regret minimization framework, right? He goes all the way to the end of his life and he says, okay, if I keep doing this shit the same way I'm going to be doing it, this is where I'm going to end up, and that is not where I want to be.
It's basically what Tony teaches is that pain and pleasure are our biggest motivators, but none more than pain. Whatever we associate massive pain to is what we change.
And a better word than motivator, I think, is leverage point.
Yeah.
Because in order for anything to change, you need to get leverage on it.
Yeah. You know, it's a perfect example of this. We all have that alcohol that we'll never drink ever again. Because we had that time where we drank it, and then the next day we threw up and had the worst time. And then what do you say? I will never have that shit ever again. We all have that one thing.
Also, just anything, even the smell of it, any association with it gives you so much pain that you're like, no way, no way, no way, no
For
way.
me, it was whipped cream Pinnacle. I was in high school and I decided it was a good idea to mix it with milk and make milkshakes because I was a child.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, long story short, I had milk and whipped cream Pinnacle coming out of my nose. And
Now I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
yeah, please don't. So yeah, now because my brain had such a painful experience tied to that alcohol, I don't even want anything to do with it. What he gets everyone in the stadium to do is have their own Dickens exercise, is what he calls it. So you write down a limiting belief that has been torturing you, basically. You take some time to think about, what is a belief that I have that is causing me a massive amount of pain in my life? And then once you get that belief, he takes you through this process called the Dickens process, where you go into your past and you think of all the pain that it caused you and all the pain that it's caused other people having that belief. You go into the future and you start painting this vision of all the pain it will continue to cause. And basically you're getting a massive amount of leverage on yourself so that your brain automatically says, no, I don't want this thing anymore. This is way too painful. I don't want it. So you're kind of tricking your subconscious mind into getting rid of this limiting belief. And it's super powerful, but it's also fucking hilarious.
Why is this hilarious?
Because you start this process and you have your limiting belief in mind, and then he gets everyone to close their eyes.
Can you give us an example of a limiting belief, though?
Yeah, so I'll give you mine at this last event. Mine was, I'm not a happy person and I can't be happy until I achieve more. So that was the limiting belief that I wanted to get rid of because it was causing me a massive amount of pain. So he gets you to close your eyes and you start imagining these really painful images in your mind of times where this thing has caused you pain. But before he could even start walking you through the process, the minute you close your eyes, all you hear is like the screeches of a horror movie, as if Freddy Krueger himself was right behind somebody with the machete the size of like a fucking football field, ready to kill somebody. And you're opening your eyes, like peeking through, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, he didn't even start talking yet. And the whole point, like Tony tells you, like, yo, you got to playful out here, because the more emotional attachment and pain you put to these things, the more leverage you'll get to actually transform. So the people who are screaming before he even starts have been to the event before, and like, I guess it's worked for them in the past. So like, I'm not taking any fucking chances here. And they start going ham right off the bat. So I start by laughing. We start by laughing. I remember I'm next to you. I started that you can't stop, similar to the meditation story. And then eventually I'm like, all right, I need to take this seriously, because this is important. So then I start following along on this journey, and I start imagining a future in which I continue to hold on to this belief that I am not a happy person and that I need to achieve more in order to be happy. And I start, like, these visuals start flying through my head, because now I'm in state with everyone around me, and I'm starting to stack more and more painful experiences and visuals in my head. So it starts with me just crying, like, on a bed, and it's just me, like, hands on my face, just crying. And now I start to physically, I feel tears starting to stream down my face, because I'm putting myself there in that state. Like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Then I had a visual of me looking at myself in the mirror and just being so disappointed with my reflection, and saying to myself in the mirror and out loud, I was actually saying, I hate you. I don't want to live like this anymore. Just adding more and more pain and painful
Your brain
emotion.
was like really believing this was true.
I was there. I was just like you talked about your story with the squeezing of the thing. Like, that kid went there. I was there. Like, I was 15 years down the line looking at myself as like a 40-year-old man with kids, and just thinking to myself, like, you are such a disappointment. You're wasting so much of your life living miserable. Like, when are you going to fucking change? Like, when are you going to stop this shit? Then Tony, at this point, he's telling you even more. I want you to think of even more pain. Obviously, now everyone's yelling even louder, crying. And I'm so in state that I'm zoning everybody else out, and I'm trying to, like, double down. I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm going to do it. So I doubled down even further. Eventually, I said, what is the most painful fucking thing I can think of? And I had a vision of me literally hung by a rope.
Oh my God.
I had committed suicide because I was so sick and tired of living in this place of never good enough, never happy, never grateful for what I had, just always wanting more. And it was so bad that it caused me to say, I can't fucking take it anymore. And I literally pictured myself hanging.
Wow.
And to make matters even worse, for my brain, I pictured my wife and kids at my funeral crying over my casket. And even worse than that, I pictured my mom, our mom, being there, thinking to herself, how could I have let this happen? How could I have let my son do this? Why wasn't I there? And all the things that she was now going to torment herself with because I had done this to myself, and all the pain I was causing everyone that I loved around me. So now at this point, I mean, it doesn't get any more leverage than this. My brain's like, nope, this thing is done. We are done with this belief forever. Open my eyes, and I kid you not, I felt about 10,000 pounds lighter, and I just started smiling. I was just like, I'm a happy person.
Wow.
I am a happy person. And it worked. It worked like a charm.
Is that the empowering belief you changed it to? Is it as simple as that?
I changed it to, I am a happy person, and the happier I am, the more I achieve. And it goes hand in hand with lesson number 2, which is emotional states are everything. Now that I have this new identity, this new belief that I am a happy person, and the happier I am, the more I will actually achieve, the more results, positive results I will get. Now I'm more willing to do the dance. I'm more willing to be playful. I'm more willing to do crazy shit that's outside of my comfort zone because I identify as this playful, happy person. I'm no longer this miserable bastard like Scrooge who thinks they need to get more or do more or be more or have that six-pack or get that $1 million in order to finally feel content with themselves. And now when I look in the mirror, thank God, I feel like a different person. I don't feel disappointed. I feel like I'm proud of the person that I am and the person that I'm becoming. And it was a really, really powerful transformation, and all of that pain.
That's really fucking awesome,
really changed
man. I'm very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Transformation. I can vouch and say that over the past month, I have seen the transformation with my own eyes, and you have been a completely new person. I think the most powerful word you used was this new identity. And Tony likes to say the identity is the most powerful force in the world. And basically that's what you've done, is you've changed this limiting identity or these limiting beliefs that created an identity, and you turn them into empowering beliefs, which created an entirely new identity, and one that makes you into the hero of your own story.
And you know what's so powerful? Why the lesson is your beliefs control everything? Think of your life as a tree, let's say, or think of your mind as a tree. The beliefs that you have about your life, such as I am not a happy person, are the roots of that tree. And so your actions become the branches that sprout out from the roots of that tree. And then the fruits are the results that you get as a result of that. So you can spend all your time trying to change all the actions that you take, change all these things up at the top, try to cut off the branches, replace them with new branches. But then these new branches are just going to keep coming back because you're not changing the thing at the root. You're not changing the real fucking operating system down at the bottom of the soil. And that's why these beliefs are so powerful, because you're basically getting down, getting the shovel. It's hard, it's painful, it's 10 times harder than just changing this habit to that. But you're doing the real work. You're digging it up, pulling the roots out, and then planting new roots so that new things start flowing naturally. New actions start flowing naturally. You don't have to work as hard because of the identity.
And if you went the nature route, you can also go the computer route, right? So like, think about your beliefs are the code you're putting into the computer to produce that result.
Yep.
And if you don't like the result you're getting, you got to change the
Underlying
code that you're
codes.
putting in. And if you do, you'll get a different result.
Yeah. I think this is a good place to wrap this up with this grand finale of the Dickens exercise. But I do think the audience might have a question in their minds, which is, why the fuck do you guys keep going back to these things? Like, if it's so life-changing and so powerful, then why have you gone to 8 of these things? Like, was it one enough?
That's a fair question, and one our mom has asked us about 10 times. So, $30,000? The answer to that question is, I'll use an analogy. If you ever found a really good book in your life, like a classic that like you really love, and you read that book when you were younger, and it really made a lasting impact, it really changed you, and then some time goes by, you enter another stage of your life, and then you read that same book that you read when you were younger, but now you got something completely different out of it. It's the same words, but you as a person have changed. And that's what happens with these events, right? That's why we don't go every single year, but we go when we're entering a new chapter of our life. So when we first quit our jobs, we went. When we were entering this new stage of like our relationship, we went. And that's how you think about this. It's like, if it's a good book, you'll keep going back to it because you know that you're going to get something out of it every single time you go back to it.
One last question before we wrap up completely. What do you say to the person who's on the fence about whether or not they should bite the bullet and attend one of these events? Let's say a UPW, Unleash the Power Within, as an example. Should they spend that $1,000 for that first event or not?
I mean, every person is different, right? I would first recommend, rather than doing that, is one, go like digest a bunch of his content on YouTube. There's a bunch of it for free. And then he also has a Netflix documentary, which isn't about UPW. It's about Date with Destiny, which is another one of his programs. But that'll kind of show you a lot of the visuals of some of the stuff we talked about here. And if you're really in a state where you're like, I need a change in my life and I'm willing to try anything, then I would say try this. Yeah, absolutely. It's like the only way you're going to change is if you step out of your comfort zone. And this is definitely something that is not in your day-to-day comfort, for sure. So if you're looking for a big change and you're at that point in your life, then I would say, why not? It's worth it.
We will end there, but if you want to learn more about some other crazy shit that me and Nick have done together, then you might want to check out this video right now about when we meditated for 100 hours straight and completely lost our minds. All right. Take care.
Good job, bro.
See you later. Love you. Peace.
Peace.